Hi, everybody. Everyone's just getting into the room right now. So we'll give it a couple minutes to get everybody out of the waiting room and into the Zoom. Thank you so much for joining.
Whatever's over there has been clean. Whatever's here, that's not stinks. Oh, okay.
If you get a chance, please mute yourself unless.
Nowadays on Tuesday.
It's not good.
No, you're not.
Okay, I think we're almost all in.
Not with the beat.
Let's give it another minute.
Blur your background if you want to.
No, but I'm not on camera.
Meet her at the subway.
Ooh. Okay, thanks. You find me, doctor?
No, but I'll just go, we'll go by.
Maybe just, you're gonna go by and wait, maybe it's emergency.
But if not, we'll go to urgent care.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. We have just a couple more people coming in from the waiting room. Thank you. I'm so excited to see over 100 people here to learn about this bill. I know that we're all getting ready for the holiday weekend, so thank you for making it a priority to come and to chat with us. I'll give it one more minute.
Because people trying to go for the agents to take only 20%. And I'll explain you, but there's something is happening.
Okay, we'll go ahead and we'll get started. If you could mute your microphone until you want to chat, that would be appreciated. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Kelly Montez. I'm the owner of Apostrophe, and I'm the AMA board president. I think a lot of you got a message from me yesterday and have been receiving our communications about what is happening. Namely, that a bill was introduced in March by New York State Senator Brad Hoylman, which has been spearheaded by the advocacy group, the Model Alliance, about protections for fashion workers, called the New York Fashion Workers Act. And in the process of introducing this bill, they have lumped in creatives, which very much affects our industry, considering the definition of creative includes photographers, stylists, hair and makeup, and casting directors.
And set designers.
And set designers, yes. And I just want to let everyone know that AMA is acting very fast. As this bill is moving fast, they're saying that it could pass committee as early as next week. So you know the steps that we have already taken. We have hired on Manat, which is a legal firm with a lobbying arm. They have 14 people in Albany, boots on the ground, that are reaching out on our behalf to folks in the assembly and letting them know the differences with what it is that we do as artist managers from modeling agencies. We are also meeting with the senator who is sponsoring the bill next Tuesday morning to help explain these differences to him. We've also already met with the Model Alliance to educate them as well. And this afternoon, we are speaking with the 4 A's, as they, as you can imagine, also have some concerns about this bill. We'll also be reaching out to the APA. We've heard from a number of photographers who are concerned because this also affects them as well. So things are in motion, but we absolutely believe that more minds, more eyes, more thoughts on what it is that we need to be conveying to all of these different partners is exceptionally important. So we can get into the details of the bill. Board members, am I missing anything?
So I just want to say to everybody, one of our hopes from this call is that when we meet with the senator on next Tuesday, that we go in saying that the AMA is, over 100 members strong. The more of you that could join the AMA today, the better off we are going in talking to the senator as a big lobbying group who it affects 100% us, in a situation where no one spoke to us about it. Nobody asked us how our businesses work. They just made assumptions and dragged us into this. So we'll go through the bill, but it's so important that, as a community, we come together to fight this. That's my Norma Ray moment, and I'll let Kelly talk.
I love it. I love Stacey's passion. So to give us all background, creative management agencies, we're considered management companies under New York State general business law. And this is known as the incidental booking exception. This is what makes our artists independent contractors and not our employees. So originally when this bill was drafted, it was to protect models, but then as we've all seen, they've expanded to creatives, stylists, casting director, hair and makeup artists, photographers, set designers. And that is what is going to really affect our ability to represent, promote, and manage our artists as we have been in the past. So I know there's been a big question of like, well, my business isn't based in New York. I'm in LA, I'm in San Francisco, I'm in Chicago. This bill is drafted with very loose wording. So if you do business in New York, if you shoot in New York, if you have an artist that lives in New York, this bill affects you. That is something that everyone needs to know. People have said to me, well, you know what, actually, my billing model is different. My artist pays me. If your artist is based in New York, I know our commission structure is generally been a standard between 25 to 30%. Your artist could come back to you and say, well, because of this bill, I am now only paying you 20%. So it's something really important that we all need to pay attention to. Any questions about that? And please feel free, unmute yourself, chime in. We really want to stay in robust discussion.
Kelly, good morning.
Good morning.
This is Sergio Leccese, Elite Model Management, New York, LA, Miami. I just need to understand something because maybe I didn't understand properly, but your position, you want to clarify the difference between model agency and creative agency and separate them, or you want to fight the bill or to make a better bill for the industry? It's not clear to me.
We want to make a better bill for the industry. We understand that there are some points within this bill that are valid and that there are some protections that models and other workers need. We do recognize that. But what has happened, what we feel has happened in this bill is that it's just lumped all creative management agencies together. The commission structure for those of us who represent photographers is different than for those of us who represent models. It's more similar to those of us who also represent stylists. But one of the biggest things is this belief that we can pay our artists before we get paid. The bill has a stipulation in it that says that as creative management agencies, we have to pay our talent within 45 days. There is a line in there that says that we need to be paid within 30 days. But
Kelly, I'm sorry, I read the bill 25 times, and I know perfectly that is very poorly done, and it's a nonsense for me, because it's more against model and artist than it's more against agency, and it doesn't help anybody. We are more to do something all together, because the best way is to do client models and agency all together to find a solution. But for me, it was important that you want to do it together with us, not just say, oh, we are different from model agency, and that's it. So that was my question. I know how the bill is not correct, because I do this one every day, and it will create more problem than what they want to do it. But okay, so we are in. Thank you.
Yeah.
Kelly,
One
Kelly,
thing,
can I bring something up really quick?
Yes.
That you had brought up about that if you have an artist in New York, if you shoot in New York, but one thing that I don't think is super clear, and that my understanding is that if you're working for a New York company, so any ad agency in New York, then that also affects you. It's not just whether you're doing the shoot there or your photographer is based in New York. Is that correct?
We believe so. Again, the wording is very loose, and that's the way that we read it as well. And we're asking for clarification on that. We think that that needs to be clarified. We're speaking with the advertisers trade organization this afternoon, and we believe that that's how they are reading it as well.
Right. Hi, Christine Placide, Elite World Group, legal counsel. Just wanted to chime in to the point regarding agencies versus model management or creative management, talent management companies. There is also a differentiation between modeling agencies and model management companies. And just, you know, as your creatives, you're managing their career, you're spending a lot of money on them. Model management companies as well are also investing a lot into their talent. And
Oh, you're muted. Could you?
Sorry, this limitation on this being able to maybe collect a service fee from clients is going to affect how we can provide, you know, sufficient services to our models. So, I mean, in a way, we are, you know, all in the same boat here, whether, you know, your focus is for creatives managing their careers or model management companies. And so we have the same concerns with how we're defined. It mimics the California Talent Agency Act, right? Like they literally pulled it from that. And so those are our main concerns. We really want to make sure that we're not defined in the same way.
That's great to know. We should definitely connect further about that, because I would love to learn more about that.
Kelly, can I just say one thing for the modeling agents? Because I'm not sure if you guys all understand that when photographers, we do not charge 20% agency on top. So photo agents are only making their money from the 25 to 30% that we take from our photographers. So that is a very different thing than how hair, makeup, styling, set design, and models work. So, and they don't seem to understand that at the Model Alliance.
Right. No, I completely agree. I think that this needs to be fleshed out a lot more. You know, there needs to be different definitions for the different people in our industries. I think it will definitely be helpful to narrow it down so we have some clarity there.
I see Anne de Boucheron, you have your hand raised. Did you have something you wanted to share with the group?
Yes, I mean, I think that, I mean, I concur with Elite in that sense that it would be to everybody's advantage to coordinate certain actions, in that sense that if all of a sudden there's no, the modeling agencies are not able to operate in New York, I think all of us who represent photographers, stylists, creative directors will no longer be able to operate in New York either. There's no way we can actually, it's such an intertwined industry that if you kind of like take away a part of it, then everything falls through. I also am of the advice, and I mentioned this to Stacy, to involve the CFDA in this conversation, because the moment that we can't operate properly in New York, or the cost of operation in New York becomes higher, that is going to affect clearly like the fashion industry at large. I mean, how are young designers going to produce shows if they have to abide by the language that is in this bill? Most of them pay in trade, and that is something that clearly is not able to exist there. How do we work with editorial, which we already are financing heavily? So I think like the entirety of the bill means a kiss of death for our industry, at least in New York State.
Definitely. There are some
Let me just-
concerns too about, there's provisions within the bill that change things to an 8-hour day and overtime starting at an 8-hour day versus a 10-hour day. And this is something that we are concerned about. One, it has the potential to change the status of a photographer or a stylist or a set designer from an independent contractor to an employee, which I know is not what they want in terms of how they run their business, from just being able to write off their expenses. But it also dramatically increases the cost to execute a shoot in New York and potentially hurts overall the photo production and the fashion industry by making it so much more expensive to shoot here, when it would be very easy to go across the way to Jersey where you don't have this bill.
Kelly,
That won't change the fact that the photographers and the agencies are based in New York. So we will be subject to that bill, even if we shoot in New Jersey, correct? Or Connecticut. So like the point is moot. We will have to go and shoot in Mexico and all
Wait.
move to Mexico, which apparently Mexico City is lovely these days.
But not for the state of New York, because the state of New York will lose the revenue from us working, even if we still move the production somewhere else.
Right. And
Kelly,
this
this
is the
is
conversation we're going to have with the senator on Tuesday.
right, but
He
guys,
really understands.
How do you raise your hand?
guys, this is Faith from Next Models. We went through this in LA, and what nobody realizes is how many clients now have left LA and are shooting and have moved their production out of Los Angeles. And just so you know, Anne, the CFDA is involved. They've actually been consulted on this. They've been working with Sarah allegedly on this.
Yeah, it looks as though they support the bill.
They do.
I wonder if they understand the implications. I think it's very easy to support the bill when you've only heard one side of the story. I mean, her pitch is pretty convincing. It paints, models as victims. And it is true that if we look historically at our industry, it hasn't treated this young woman well, but I think things have changed a lot in the last 10, 15 years. So I think that's something to highlight. I mean, it's been brought to my attention as well that contracts can only be 2 years, which means that we can no longer sponsor any international talent, because unless we have a 3-year contract, we cannot support their O1 visas, which will be the case also, if I understand correctly, for models. And I was mentioning this to one of my stylists, and she was saying, well, this is great. So what are these girls going to do if they can't have their agencies pay for their visas? They're going to become sex workers or have to marry an older benefactor in order to be able to become a model? Like, it just completely takes away the reality of the world we live in.
There's also provisions within the bill that keep us from billing back any expenses along those lines to the talent. It makes it to where the creative management agency has to take those costs on if we're even able to still do so.
Kelly, you should listen to Doreen Small, because Doreen was on the board. She was the original board member on Sarah Zip's board, and she really understands this probably the best of anyone. She's been working with us a little bit. So Doreen, you should really say what you know.
Oh, hi. Hi, everybody. Hi, Faith. Thanks. I just wanted to point out that the bill has been amended. We've seen an amended draft, and the 2 years is now changed to 3 years. But I agree with all of these comments about the main issue, the financial issues, the employee independent contractor issues, the agency management company issues. And to Sergio's point, I think if we all work together and show how important this is, we have a much bigger grenade to throw into the works.
Hi.
turn this around.
Good, how are you? I'm picking up for Brian Miller, 11.
There we go. Sorry about that. I think another point that I really want to make everyone aware of that I think is detrimental to the health of our business is just going back on that payment clause. They're within the bill, and I need to take a look at the amended draft to see if anything has changed, but there's nothing that really ensures that we are going to receive payment in 30 days from these advertising agencies and brands. And the majority of our jobs are cost plus. We all know that it can take a month plus to organize one of these gigantic invoice packages. And as it is, our advances don't cover all of our expenses. If we have to pay out creative fees, our photographer fees, our full prop stylist, set design, casting director's fees before we get paid, I know I can't do that. Yes, exactly. Condé Nast is net 90. And getting these brands and advertisers to change their payments. Many of the advertisers have contracts with the brands that say that they don't have to pay them until net 60. Hence why our payments are so delayed. To change that side of the industry after this gets passed, it's a huge mountain to climb.
Kelly, I know that Macy's has been contacted, and I know that they are reaching out to the powers that be because they can't work that way either. So if they had to pay in 30 days, it would be a huge problem for them as well.
And also the Publishers Trade Association has been notified of this, and they're also talking to their lobbyists and addressing the issues that pertain to publishing, to your point, Condé Nast.
That's great. And I mean, again, if you guys have any contacts in these places that you know are also reaching out and also have concerns about these bills, please send them to the AMA so that we can reach out and have conversations with them as well. The other issue that we want to make everyone aware of is that it requires creative management agencies to register with the state yearly. And it also requires a surety bond of $50,000. We aren't sure, it doesn't say within the bill whether that's one time. We're hopeful that that's one time. We are trying to point out that the majority of us are women-owned small businesses, and what sort of financial impact a bond of that size would have. It impacts all creative management agencies that have 5 or more employees, which is truly a small business. And as we've talked about before, there's no automatic renewals of representation contracts.
And the fines, Kelly.
That's right. So your first time offense that you get reported by one of your creatives is $3,000, and every time after that is $5,000.
Wasn't there a misdemeanor charge in there too?
It was. If you don't register with the state, it's a Class B misdemeanor.
It's absurd. It's
absurd.
I can't even believe this. This is. I just have a question. The Model Alliance never had anyone from photo rep agencies owners to be part of this bill. Never. They never.
They said that they have a hotline, and a couple of photographers left messages on their hotline that they're having a problem getting paid. And she said that she has an advisory board, but we went and looked at the advisory board, and they're not photographers that we were familiar with that are working in the capacity that, most of the people that we represent are.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. And we're going to continue to follow up with the Model Alliance and try to continue that education. Carol and I met with Sarah. Was that last week, Carol? Was that
last week.
It was just last week. This has all been moving so fast. And, I do believe she heard us. And she genuinely seemed to not understand the way in which our structure was different. Now, we don't necessarily think that that's the best path to go down and that she's going to be our advocate, considering how much success she's already had with the bill, but we do feel like it's important to continue that education and that understanding that we aren't gigantic conglomerates, we're small businesses, and what the impact would be to us. Especially this idea that we can pay our creatives before we get paid. There's no assurance then that the brands even have to pay us. We could end up getting stuck with the bills, that we're the ones on the hook for the projects.
I mean, I know I can't do that. I mean, I would go out of business, so it's impossible.
Most of us would go out of business.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not banks. you
Yeah,
know,
exactly.
We're small.
I'm not advancing on a job if I want to make sure the client's going to pay me first before I pay anyone. It's just what it is.
Hi,
But
Kelly.
I think what she's saying that's even scarier though, is that what could happen is if you have to pay the talent within the 30 days and a client, you know, especially overseas, but a client even here could be like, we're not going to even pay you and you have to come after us for it. Like the legal
Right.
costs and implications to us, you know, it becomes all on us, and they could pay us in a year. They could not pay us. And I mean, eventually they probably would have to if it was an American company, but just think about how many more delays and how people wouldn't get paid even more if it's not on them, you know, to do it.
Or they go out of business.
Because if once the photographer is paid, then they can use the images. So that means we're paying the photographer and they're paid. So then what's the impetus to pay us other than the right thing?
The other point is, I was reading, if I might be mistaken, where it says if a talent does not have a job within 60 days of signing a contract, that they can just leave the agency. And when you rep photographers, it can take longer than 60 days to get them a job when they join the agency. So that's completely unrealistic.
Jackie, it's the same with models.
That's actually been amended to 120 days, but same point, yeah.
That all came from the Los Angeles bill. It's the same exact way in Los Angeles. You don't work in 4 months, you can leave.
And even for models too, it applies to models as well.
So if one of our talents gets pregnant and decides to take 4 months off, then
right.
That.
Yeah.
I think there's a clause on that.
We'll get a copy of the amended draft and post a link to it on our site, and we'll continue to keep people updated. You know, I know Stacy made this plea as we started, but I think it's really important to note that without the AMA, there's a chance that this bill would have passed without any of us even having knowledge of it. And thankfully, we're already organized. Thankfully, we have some money in the coffers to move quickly and get lawyers and lobbyists on this. But I cannot stress enough how important it is if you are not a member, if you work for an agency who's not a member, to talk to the owner. Because ultimately, even if you're just an employee, this is going to affect your commission structure if agencies are having to front these payments.
And I'm sorry, Kelly, and for whoever doesn't know, the AMA costs $100 a month.
It's not expensive.
You know, it's as much as, you know, we pay to go out to dinner. Like,
Right.
It's nothing, but, you know, we can't survive without members. Besides all of this, the resources that we have on our website are fantastic. We have, you know, a glossary of usages. We have contracts we could use. I mean, you know, what we offer is endless. So, you know, really, we need everybody to please join on so we could fight this as a community.
And for anyone who's not eligible to be a member, we also gladly take donations for this effort, which that link will be made available as well.
Yeah.
And one point I want to make really quickly too to everybody is it's not, you know, obviously we need the support, we need the monthly fees from people, but more importantly, we have more power if we say we are a group of over 100 agencies in this industry. Currently, you know, we're just under that number, but the more people that join, the more power we have as as a trade organization for our industry. It's, obviously we need the money to keep going, but we also need to be able to say, the majority of agents, belong to this and are part of this. And it's really important.
This also extends to those of you who could be partners of ours and not necessarily representing photographers or stylists. We have a partnership tab and we can go in and say we are this many member agencies and these are the partners that support the AMA. And that truly gives everyone a voice in this way. And again, the fight is going to be expensive. So, please donate and help us put everything after this. Our hope is that we can keep it in committee and keep them revising the bill and listening to us. But when we talked to Sarah Ziff last week, she was hopeful that this would pass by June. They are moving quick. So we need your help as well.
Kelly, somebody asked what the next steps are. So for us, we are going to meet with the senator next week. We're going to keep talking to our lobbyists, but the next step is we have to start a letter and email campaign to the assembly. So as we get that information and who the most important people to reach out to, we will send out a draft of the letter that our lobbyist is suggesting that we send to everyone, so everyone could, have their staff and, everyone at their agencies start to send these letters out as well.
We're also going to be working on calling scripts as well and sending out phone numbers, as well as a list of the state assembly. If you know somebody in the state assembly, this is the power of our network. It's a good time to make an introduction. We need to find people in the state assembly that are willing to take up this cause for us. So please keep that in mind.
Hi, it's Doreen again. You need to reach out to Carinas Reyes. She's the sponsor in the assembly. She's terrific. We had a call with her the other day. She very smart, understands the issues. Be a little careful when you talk about the financial ramifications. She's very pro-labor. She's kind of about sharing the pain. I would really talk to your lobbyists about how you cast your response, but she's the person in the assembly who I would start with anyway.
I have a question. This is Elizabeth Poje. I have a question. In this bill, if they expect us to be paying all of these vendors, our talent, our photographers, everyone up front, or within the 30 days, in this bill, can they put in something that requires the advertising agencies to at least pay us all of our production, 100% of our production costs up front as the advance?
So I think the important thing to note is that it's 45 days payment and that we have to pay our creatives. So even if they put something in there to cover and give us a full advance, you would still need to pay your photographer their creative fees. So unless advertisers are willing to front 100% or move to firm bids, then that's going to be difficult. And what we've heard from clients is that contracts between advertising agencies and brands are set up to where the agencies don't pay us until they get paid. And sometimes their payment terms with their brands that they're advertising on behalf of are 30, 60, 90 days.
Well, the agencies would have to change that with their clients.
Yes.
This bill would go through because
it's a heavy lift.
Exactly. It's a very heavy lift.
I agree.
Yeah.
You're
Jenny
trying to change.
Has her hands up. Can we,
Jenny Friedberg?
Oh, sorry, I just got invited to this. Carol insisted that I come, and it's really, really interesting. I'm going to point out the obvious to many of you that know me and people like me, that we are collating your invoices, right? And that means from 20 or 30 or 40 different entities, depending on the situation, before it goes to the client. So there are probably some interesting constructive workarounds that should also be discussed depending on where this bill goes. But that is certainly one thing. that I just want to remind you all of, right? And I do often pay people ahead of being paid by the client, A, for keeping relationships alive, and because, but I get that people can't do that, and I can't do that. You know, so a sort of culture of trust that exists amongst a lot of us on this phone call and in general, as well as amongst you all with your artists. I don't know if artists, you know, contracts between you all and your artists sort of would negate or change any of this, you know, and that's kind of not my business, but there is, you know, there's this other layer, right? So I often will ask photographers and models, for that matter, to contract directly with clients to A, stay out of it, and B, to avoid usage problems. But you know, keep in mind, when someone like me, Creative Chaos, is collating an invoice, there are so many different entities that I'm involved with that it's not like I'm just waiting for Stacy Fisher to send me George's bill. It's like everyone else's too, right? So that takes time. I'm often the one chasing people looking for their invoices. And I'll just say one more thing, which is that in response also to what Faith said, because it involved, you know, she and I work together because we know each other forever. But there's an attorney in LA called Roger Muse that's a real rogue dude, and he will represent photographers but mostly models. He's that go to him that immediately sue you based on some law, as I recall, from like the 1930s stage girls showing up at Paramount. And I got in a real situation with my client at H&M, which a lot of you know I worked for, you know, decades, because they didn't want to pay that bill, and he was very litigious and succeeded ultimately. So there is a lot. It's interesting to listen, and I'll pause now, but there's not to scare you more, but obviously there's a lot more to this.
I mean, it has the implications to really change our industry. One thing, as a trade organization, we cannot talk about what we would do or how we would work around the bill should it be passed. So please just keep that in mind in conversations. Callie, you've had your hand up for a while. Did you want to share with us, have a question?
Yeah, I was just going to say, prior to launching All In, I worked at some large agencies, and I can tell you that trying to get anything passed where they are going to renegotiate their contracts with all their different clients and brands is going to be next to impossible. And I'm not, like, that's just the reality of it. When I was on the agency side, I tried very strongly to fight that we would not award a job to an artist or to their agent until we had money in-house, so that I could at least get a cash advance out to the agents ASAP. But a lot of agencies don't work like that. And then when we're going to push back as an agent to this agency producer and say, well, this is the terms, this is what's happening, they don't really care. I mean, some do and some don't. It's just they're doing their job. They've got a million jobs they're working on. And then it becomes, are we going to start a war with our client, you know, that we're trying to nurture that relationship with? So it's just, you're not going to get the agencies to get on board with this, I guess is my point. We have to fight it and find a way to get a solution, because it's not going to come from the agency side and the clients.
Yeah, and this is something that the AMA has been working on, better, more fair payment terms across our industry is something that's more in line with what the AICP has been able to negotiate on behalf of their membership. But the reality is that we've been acting as banks for a long time for our clients. And this precedent has been set, and the AMA, even outside of this bill, has been working hard to change that.
Caroline, did you have a question?
I was just wondering with the moving image production companies, because they don't represent the director in the same way we do. Is that how they are not going to be affected by this? Because there's so many that moving image and still, right? I was at Iconoclast where it was combined and this would be a real issue. Can we get moving image company, production companies involved as well? Will it affect them?
So one of our advisory board members is from the AICP, and the way in which their payment terms are is a firm bid that's paid within 30 days of the completion of the job. They don't have the wrap packets that we have, so they can send final invoice the next day and get it in the system. They don't have the problem that we have in fighting this bill.
And they don't even when their directors are doing the still? Because I ran into it at Iconoclast that there was the problem. So, because I still had to operate the same way. So I'm just saying we might want to try and rally moving image production companies too that have still people involved.
Sure, I am sure that there are some of them, and I know that for a lot of us here, we're representing directors and doing more motion work, and have moved into more of that combo mode. So we're just trying to, and again, we need your help in spreading the word to other agencies as well. So if you know those people, have them become a member of the AMA, have them reach out to us and use us as a resource, but also support us.
One of my concerns about what you just said about production companies having photographers in general, from my understanding, they're union set photographers, and it's a totally different, they're a vendor. Most photographers who are doing any decent amount of commercial work have a separate stills rep. That's my understanding. But I mean, that could be changing. I haven't run into production companies that have both and that are doing both for their people. You know, like if they have a director and there's a stills aspect to it, then they get a separate person. But and a lot of the time it is just like a union hourly photographer.
That's been my experience, Deb. But again, if people know other agencies that are repping both, and they can introduce them to the AMA and the work that they're doing here, that will be important.
What about still production companies? Are they going to be affected by this? I feel like there's a lot there that we could bring on board to help.
We're trying to figure that out, I think, especially when they work with unrepresented talent and when they're hiring crews. And if the photographer is billing through them, then yes, that will absolutely impact them. And for photographers as well who are unrepresented and are hiring crews, it impacts them as well. And we're trying to make that known. We're trying to make sure that people, that's why we're talking to the APA as well. The producers don't have any sort of trade organization. So again, it's important that if you are working with producers right now on your projects, you make them aware of what's happening, and so that they can research that. And again, there's opportunities for all of the production companies and other companies that support the photography industry to become AMA partners, or even just donate to help us with this fight. And David Robin, I see your note in the chat. I will be reaching out to you after this call. Thank you so much.
And I just want to point out that we do have a lot of producers on this call, Jenny being one of them, and producers are welcome as partners in the AMA. You know, also the distinction about the motion is remembering always broadcast versus non-broadcast. And that is why we're so grateful to have Denise Gilmartin from the AICP on our board as an advisory member, because she really does help us to understand how they work. And we would love to adopt more of their standards, including firm bids at 30 days. And happy to see in the chat that many people are saying that they are having success with firm bids. I hope that we can all move in that direction.
That's fantastic. Chris, I see your hands raised.
Yeah, I'm wondering from the conversations that have been going on already with legislature and then the ones that are happening in the days to come, if there is a way to sort of adapt this conversation in a more pro-labor position from our perspective, because I think from what everybody's saying, we all know that clients and then agencies, like all of those payment terms, they just slide downhill, and now we're sort of getting squeezed from both sides. So I'm wondering if there is a way to latch on with the legislature to find ways to amend this bill while that's still happening, to help to put more pressure on brands and agencies at the sort of top of the payment chart to change some of those terms, because, you know, to everybody's point, like there is strength in numbers, and if this is just going to squeeze everybody out of the business, it's just untenable. But also, I think that we are at the base of it pro labor protections for the people that we hire, like all of the models, stylists, all of our crews. Like, I want everybody to get paid in a timely manner. I want everybody to have some of these protections.
Jordan,
So trying to feel like
you're
change
done.
the tenor of
Please
this.
put your fruity.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think that's been the role of an artist rep for a really long time. We're not only just fighting for our artists and for their copyrights, but we're fighting for their crews. And especially over the last couple of years, we're fighting for safe sets and advocating for that. Because I can tell you, I have a number of clients that would happily have thrown all those COVID protocols out the window.
It sounded like you said safe sex, Kelly.
No, Deb, get your mind out of the gutter.
Kelly, Albert's had his hands up.
Oh, Albert, yes.
Yes, hi. First of all, thank you for organizing this meeting, and I appreciate all the work you do on our behalf. I was going to ask, besides your representation, does it make sense for us to reach out or write letters directly to the senator?
Yes, so next week, our lobbying group is going to create some templates and give everyone some emails to help make that easier for you to do that reach out. So expect that communication to come after Memorial Day weekend. We'll also have some phone scripts as well. And, you know, I also encourage everyone to talk to your artists about the implications of this. I know that I've put this out on my Instagram, and photographers have been like, well, you know, this sounds kind of good. And I'm like, okay, except for that, I can't operate my business. I will literally go out of business if I have to pay you your creative fees before I get paid. And I think it's important for them to understand that. Russell, you had your hand up as well.
Yeah, hi. As Albert said, thank you everyone in AMA for the work you're doing. This is incredibly valuable for all of us. One small detail, but it's important because it speaks to the same issue as late payments. We've all had the experience of billing clients that then go bankrupt. And we cannot be left holding the bag. It's literally not our job to finance our projects. And even though we do, I can finance it up to a point, you know, using float and whatnot, but I can't hold the bag for clients that go AWOL or file for bankruptcy. If I'm obliged to pay those bills because Macy's filed for bankruptcy, which I've been through a couple of times, how can I be expected to do that? Literally not my responsibility. And yet it's, according to these terms, it would become that.
And that's the case that we're trying to make, and hoping that we can get through to these legislatures, is that we are small businesses. We need, if anything, we need protections in these bills as well. The onus can't be on us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, we're approaching the hour. Is there any other concerns that anyone has? Any other questions about the bill? I know we're in the beginning stages of this fight, and you're going to get a lot of emails from us. So, you know, hang in there with us, but we want to make sure that you're informed every step of the way, and that we can include you in terms of reaching out to the assembly and making our case known.
And if you guys aren't on our mailing list. If you can maybe put your emails in the chat, if you want to be kept up on what's happening and, you know, the campaign to send letters and make calls, that would be really fantastic.
And I just want to make a plea again, please join the AMA, please become a partner of the AMA. I mean, when you think about the cost of what it would mean to us should this bill pass versus $100 monthly membership fee, you know, it seems like a no-brainer to join us and to support us. The larger our numbers are that we can say, if we can say that we're over 100 members, that will be huge.
Right now we're at about what, Vanessa, what number are we at? Like 82?
We're at 82, 83.
Yeah. We need to be over 100.
Yeah.
And there's enough people in our industry. We can do this.
We absolutely can do this. And if you can donate, this is an expensive fight, my friends, please do. We need the support.
I mean, it's $100 a month. I mean, I'm a very small agency. I'm looking at some of the other agencies that are here and I'm paying it. So it's like a dinner, 2 dinners, whatever. It's important.
Kelly, can I say one thing? It's Faith again. Maybe Doreen can connect with you, since a bunch of the model management companies have hired lobbyists, and they could fill you guys in with where we are. So we're not, you know, stepping on each other's toes and wasting time and money.
That would be great. Doreen, let's figure out a way to email one another and get connected. We'd love to hear about what it is that you guys are doing.
Thanks, Faith, for being on here, Faith. That's amazing you're on. Thank you.
You're welcome, Carol.
Fantastic.
Let me just drop the join link in the chat so we can copy and paste it.
Yes, I know. Ashley, can you put it back in the chat again? Here we go. Heather just put it in there, where you can donate, where you can become a member. Can we also put the partnership link into the chat?
Will this join link, I could put it on my Instagram feed?
Yes, you can.
Yeah.
Please.
Also, everybody, if you could look on the AMA, we have a up-to-date listing of who are members. I don't want to call out agencies, although I would like to be perfectly honest, for the ones who haven't joined, especially some of the bigger ones. But if you could kind of look, and, you know, we as the board can only make so many calls and push people. You know, we're also trying to run our own businesses. And, you know, I can't tell you how much work the AMA has been for the board members. We're happy to do it. We care about this community, but now's the time we really need everybody's help.
Thank you.
Sorry, covered this already. Is there a list of who has joined so we can see if anyone we know that hasn't joined, we can contact them?
Yes, we have a directory. Ash, can you put
On the website?
Yeah, it's on the website.
One thing I want to mention about the directory, though, is that we have had a lot of people join in the last couple of days.
Yeah, I was just going to say that, Carol.
It's not completely,
fair
it's
enough.
not completely up to date, but we can provide an up-to-date list soon. So
by Tuesday, it should be updated for sure.
I thought it might be useful as well to share this information with international representation agencies that, you know, do have talent occasionally come and work in New York, because they're probably absolutely not aware of this conversation.
That's a great point, Anne. Yes, please do. It's word of mouth is huge here. And if you're reaching out to somebody and they're already a member agency, that's okay. Let's just keep letting our network know that this is happening. The bill is moving fast. It was introduced at the end of March. The fact that it's at the end of May, it's already in committee and looks to be moving to the Senate floor. They're moving quickly. We need to move fast too.
Okay. How are you communicating this, like the updates? Is it through a newsletter? Is there a digital suggestion box? Like how, like besides these meetings, how are you keeping this ball moving amongst this whole crowd and everyone else that will join up?
Please follow our Instagram account. We'll also be putting updates out there as well. And then we'll be sending newsletters. And if we've created a section on our website for updates, updates as well. So keep checking back in with us. And again, just don't mark me as spam, friends.
Yeah, and we also send, Jenny, we also send out newsletters pretty regularly to the community and just update them on.
And
things
especially
that
on
are
this
going on.
subject. Yeah.
Hi, this is Elizabeth Poje again. Would it be beneficial if communication arts were involved? Archive, the book?
Absolutely. Yes, we're talking to Archive. They reached out to us yesterday to figure out how they could support. And we're, again, there are 6 board members doing all of the work. So if you want to get involved in the task force, there is a link on our website to also join the task force to help us do just even the writing, to communicate and help photographers understand how this is going to impact them, help producers how it's going to impact them. We are pulling together these resources as fast as we can, but there are 6 board members. So if you're feeling passionate and getting involved in the fight, we will absolutely take your sweat equity as well. Please join the committee. But we haven't spoken to communication arts yet. If you have a connection, by all means, please reach out to them and connect our hands. But we are in conversations with Archive. As well. These are great ideas, and all the links are in the chat now. Thank you, everyone. I am so excited to see our membership bloom after this.
Carol, you're funny.
And
Getting emotional.
Hit any of us up with questions, with thoughts, with concerns. We appreciate all of your voices, and thank you all for coming here today and taking part and learning and being a member of our community.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for organizing this so much.
Thank you for coming.
The Agent Club, someone just put in the chat, the Agent Club just actually broadcast out my letter this morning to their full mailing list. Yeah,
that was me.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.